in line with her, which is, yeah. Thank
Wait, we've
you.
got what? What were you saying, Chris?
Yeah, it's all right. I was just choking for a moment. Sort of takes my attention briefly. We've got to live in line with her. Now, most people don't know how to listen to her. So one of the facets of what Jim and I are doing is help people learn to listen to her. Like, it's a sense we're just not used to using it. You know, it's like any muscle, when you don't exercise it, it tends to atrophy. So we're teaching people how to come back in connection. The indigenous tribes have got it. Like, most of them feel her to some degree. The Hopi are really good at it. Met one or two people who are good at it while I was there. You know, it's bringing these people together so we can actually start spreading that knowledge. You know, we've got the situation where, you know, if you're Indigenous in America, you're a second-class citizen or even a third-class one. You know, getting people up where they feel respected and appreciated and people willing to listen to them is a big thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, we've got a planet in crisis. You know, if we look at the floods in California, people died in that. You know, we've had wildfires where people die. You know, I forget what weather event it was, whether it was the California floods, but I heard yesterday that 30 people had lost their lives. And now I'm not sure if it was that floods or it was something somewhere else. But when you're talking numbers like that, we're starting to lose more and more people. Usually you lose, you know, in single figures, but we're starting to lose more. And if the events get stronger, especially with earthquakes and things, yeah, it's just going to get more and more intense. And yeah, she's going to get dramatic. So that's a practical thing that you can see happening. You can witness it's already in process. You know, anybody wants to look at it and do the science is there. So changes, yes, they're happening. They may seem gradual at the start, but when you're looking at something like that, it's getting more and more rapid and more intense each year. It's just at what point it's going to impact somebody. You know, if the ocean level rises, which it is, because it's been measured already, they're looking at all the financial systems of the world, like Tokyo, New York, London. They're all got the ability to be flooded at the same level, like at the same amount of ocean level rise. They're the financial capitals of the world. And if they get flooded, you know, there's an old saying overseas, if Wall Street has a cough, the rest of the world catches a cold, because whatever happens in Wall Street affects the rest of the global market. And if Wall Street closed down because of flooding, which it has the ability to do, it could lead to a deterioration in the financial system. If all three centers got flooded at a similar time period, which is possible, it's suspected you get a financial collapse going on. How extreme? But if you got human loss at the same time of a significant amount, it literally could collapse the global economy. So it's getting used to surviving without money. These are practical things that, you know, you can follow the science, follow the information, and it's there. Outside of that, you know, I hope I'm okay speaking for you, Jim, but both Jim and I feel the call from the earth herself. She's telling us to live in line with her. Yeah, and that's very blatant.
I went to
where are you, Jim? You look like you're in Bali or something with your background.
Yeah, I am.
Did you hop on a plane?
I went to the circle at the park and at midday, and then I jumped on a plane. And I'm actually now I'm in Bali. Good eye. Yeah, I couldn't get the background to work, and suddenly it just did it on its own. I don't know how or why, and it won't come off now, but that's okay. So we had this thing at the park today, and it was similar discussion even.
You mean Sycamore? Were you at Sycamore today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a similar discussion. It was pretty interesting because there were some people new to even talking about any of this, and one woman who was going through a really difficult personal time, she just really lost it. So I suggested she go and sit with a tree for a couple hours and just let it come. So I'm hopeful she did that. I think she probably will.
Wow.
But you know,
Was,
when's it gonna come? How's it gonna come? We don't know. We have to be ready.
Yeah,
The big thing is too, and it's still coming up. Chris, you even still did it. We have
Yep.
we have to listen to the Earth Mother, absolutely. But some of us
Mm.
have been doing that for 50 years. Then we have to do what the Earth Mother is telling us to do.
Yeah,
We got to stop, get out of our ego and our arrogance. And gee, you shouldn't build those homes up there on the cliff ends. You know,
mm. We don't cut certain trees down. We
yep.
don't take water out of a river for irrigation places. There's so many things where we've impacted the environment, and we've actually got to start working with her constructively, because most of the alterations we've made to the environment have been to the detriment of the environment. And some of the stuff we've done should be reversed. And I am using the should word.
Uh,
well, I think this was a really nice idea for Valentine's Day. I don't know if I can stay
Never-
for the whole thing
oh
because I've
no,
got
that's
clients,
fine.
but
And we didn't know if anybody would come on a holiday or not, so it was interesting. What did we have last week? It was a pretty good group.
oh, are you doing this every week?
Yeah, we started, so, and it won't be,
Oh.
it'll be different board members. Kat's on our board as well. So it'll be different board members every week.
Okay.
Last week, I think there were 4 of us on, and then 5 or 6 other people. I can't remember.
And I've held back the extreme version of what I could talk about.
No holds barred, Richard.
Christopher.
Christopher, forgive me.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm a little scrambled today, I have to admit.
I can understand.
It's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. If you ever want somebody to talk to, I'm here as well.
Talking just
But,
makes me cry. I
Yeah.
need to, I do better if I take action. Then I feel like at least I'm trying
Ooh,
to progress beyond it.
yeah, makes a huge difference. Yeah. How far do you want me to go into descriptions then, Eve?
Oh, that's good. I was just kind of,
On the surface, no courses.
yeah, no,
Okay.
that's good, because I had said something with a group of people, like, I'm a little bit nervous about everyone saying what can happen, and everybody's like, but what if it's really good? And I said, oh, I guess I didn't think of that, and
Yes,
so they kind of threw.
That's an interesting comment, Eve, because no matter what happens, it'll be good. Because if nothing happens, we're going to all disappear. The earth is just going to say, enough of these 2-legged fools, and brush us away. So it may be really difficult. It may be painful, but in the long run, it'll be good because it has to change. We can't keep going this way.
Yeah.
I think, Kat, I think we've now hit the 1.5 degree thing, which means it's no longer reversible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1.55 degrees.
Right.
I listened to a bit more in-depth documentary on that, and they're partially playing the card. It was only for so many months out of a particular year, but it was over half the months of the year. But it's still an indication that we're hitting that and actually bouncing around that level. I think they're a sort of playing politically correct sort of way of trying to make it okay that we've exceeded it.
Well, that's what they keep doing, keep trying to distract us.
Yeah.
There is so much distraction going on right now.
Oh boy. In every venue. It's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so we just got 7 people show up from Pine Ridge. Tom is there with the phone.
Oh.
They say hello. They're glad to be here. I want to know what we're talking about. Hey,
So do we.
Tom, tell everybody to go read the write-up. No, we're chatting about the changes. Okay, good. If you guys want to bring in any of the prophecy things, Tom, who's there? He'll tell me what the mix is in a minute.
Yeah,
Whoop,
I'd
an
be
eighth,
open to
an eighth
hearing.
person just came in.
Mm.
But welcome, guys. Yes, and we've basically been talking about the changes and what does it mean and what are they going to look like. And you folks have been talking about that a hell of a lot longer than we have. So
Yeah, we're open to hearing what you've open to offering.
2 grandfathers, 2 grandmothers, 3 20-somethings. I think that's what he means. And him.
Yep.
At the moment, that's the group. A couple more may show. He's not sure.
Do they
Yep.
just hear us and not see us?
They can't get a computer up and working. The signal's not good.
Oh, okay.
The only way they can sometimes is if they drive all the way to the casino, about an hour and a half.
Is that
So-
a function of the topography of that place? Are there hills that are,
Function of Pine Ridge, I think. Yeah, it is partly that, but they just don't get good coverage even with phone. But he can usually hear on the phone. So what they do is listen on the phone, and then he'll type things on my message line,
and then
Yep.
you read it?
and then I can, yeah. And sometimes I paraphrase because if it's real long, I don't wait
Mm.
for the typing, which takes time.
Yeah, I'll launch into something here and you can interrupt me anytime, Jim. This is just to keep
Go ahead,
something
Captain.
going. One of the things I look at with all of this is the process we're going through is we as humans have got out of connection with the earth, and the processes are bringing us back to listening to her, getting back in what I would call right relationship, because it's a term I've come across in 2 or 3 places, which I like. And it's that tuning in to what our natural relationship with nature and the earth is. So we can get that instinctive, intuitive part of us that hears her on a constant basis back into motion. It's essentially exercising that muscle. And it's learning to listen that flow of that, because the earth actually gives instructions. Like, you listen to her, she's very clear about quite a lot of stuff. And it's just something we didn't listen to because our egos took over, which is the separated aspect of our consciousness. And the ego, which to me is just the thinking brain, is the only part that operates in time. The rest of us operates in the moment. And it's in the moment stuff we forgot to listen to. So to listen to the earth, we've got to be heart-based because we feel it, not think it. And it's coming back to those feelings that hear, that know, that are in touch, that we feel the life and the vitality of everything. Oh, what's that? I hear and forget. I am and remember.
I see and I remember.
No, can you read it, Kat?
I do and I understand. Yep.
Ah. Interesting. Yeah, so a lot of it is, coming back to that living relationship. And the interesting thing I find about, and this is part of what I've been experiencing lately, when you come in back in that connection, there's actually a life and a vitality with it, which has healing benefits because you're in the life flow that exists in everything that is created. And being out of touch with that by being in my head, I'd lost touch with that as well. Yeah, I could feel life and things, but I wasn't part of that life. By coming heart-based, I'm feeling that vitality when I connect to my food as I eat it. When I walk on the grass with bare feet, I can feel the energy flowing through my body. And it's like, why wasn't I living with this all the time? Why wasn't I taught as a child? And these are things that have direct benefits on our health. also our self-esteem doesn't get affected when we're in that natural life flow, that connected flow.
You're starting to get
So-
some response back too.
Yeah. Okay.
So-
Talking stick in the middle.
Okay, and just as a little, has a fun preface. One of the younger people said, so who is this guy? He talks funny. I'm trying to translate the word. Funny's about the best I can do. And one of the grandmothers said, I love the way he sounds. So they're having fun with your accent.
Yeah. Okay. And introducing myself. I'm Christopher Wesling. I live in Queenstown, New Zealand, which is the South Island of New Zealand. And I was recently over with Jim in Sedona. And many people there were greatly impressed with my accent. And yeah, so
We had him in
welcome.
Dene Land, we had him on Zuni Land. We had him in several places. Next time, we hope to get up that way. So wow. All right, so we're going right into things. Between Eve asking about how it's going to be, and Kat talking about the difficulties right now. So these guys are bringing up and I don't usually bring it up right. What the hell? It's part of it. There's just too darn many of us. I'm putting it politely. They didn't put it as politely. There's too many people. That is a lesson we failed, even we native people. In the past, when we were nomadic, so I guess nomadic is what he means. We moved around a lot. When there was a lot of food, our tribe would get bigger. When conditions were not good, we didn't have as many children. We just knew it. We listened to the earth, like you two were saying. So, I mean, they've been listening to us for a while now, so they can't stay. And that is, Jim, you said it last week. We have 8 billion people on our common home, talking about the earth, that should support no more than a little under 2 billion. It's actually 1.6 billion is the scientific number, and also the indigenous number that's been pointed.
Yeah.
So they're talking about way too many people, which means we're gobbling up the resources.
Yeah.
And that's going to that'll be a longer fix. Unless Earth gets really angry, and it could be a quick fix.
Yeah.
But one of the things the prophecies say, and you guys jump on me there in Pine Ridge if I misstate this. If we're taking action, if we're showing as humans we can change, if we're starting to do some serious change, not the jokes that we have as leaders these days, but some real change, that will be given more time. The earth has more time to correct. If we don't, the response from the earth is going to be much more direct and much harsher.
Yeah.
Think of it, it's a little over 200 years that we've gone from 1 billion
There
to
you
8
go.
billion. We've had a steady state, optimal growing and living conditions. And like any population that has ideal living conditions, it maximizes and then it has a crash.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, yes, that's arrogance and ego again.
Yeah. See, it's interesting for me because one of the things I get it's really important with this is it's not just doing the right thing, it's getting our consciousness into the right state. And consciousness, once again, is outside the thinking brain. And learning to come from that is a whole new skill, which most people are resisting flat out. You know, it's that saying, we can't give up our jobs, we can't, not work, we can't do this, we can't do the next thing. When COVID came through, it showed us that we can do all these things because we've
Right.
got the change. It showed us that we were possible. Because up to then we were hearing about the environment. Greta Thunberg was getting traction, and she was becoming big news. And
Mhm.
suddenly this virus comes out of the blue. You know, people were saying, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that, you know, we can't stop flying. COVID turned around and goes, here, take this. And it was like, now see, you can stop it all. We stopped planes flying, we closed borders, we stopped people going to work, and things kept ticking over for a while. And it's showing we
Here they
can do
come.
it. We got massive reduction in pollution levels. Animal habitats were changing.
I was,
There was, go for it, Jim.
okay. I was waiting, because you said it came out of the blue. It did not come out of the blue. A lot of cultures were predicting that and a lot more, a long time.
Ah,
So it's, for them, it's not out of the blue, which is another level of understanding. Had we
yeah,
paid more attention to some of the older cultures earlier, maybe we would have gotten that message. And one of the people here is grandmother Maxine, who's listened to our shows before,
yeah,
and she's reminding, we got, even with all this going on, we have to have some fun. So she's bringing up those questions again of when did we stop singing? When did we stop dancing? And Jim, as you ask, when did we stop dreaming? There's too many people. We should have done more singing and dancing and less making people. So
oh, I gotta love it.
it's a good point.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we thought, and too many still do, that we could just do whatever we want. And it was,
Without
never,
consequence.
yep,
yeah. And that's
Yep.
where we're learning we're not separate from the earth without consequence. We're a part of the earth, and we're a total consequence
Mhm.
to what happens with her. And that's the thing we've lost. Whatever happens to her happens to us. When I've, you know, in the connection I'm feeling with the earth, I feel that with every single thing I do, every breath, everything I eat, you know,
Mhm.
all the water I drink.
Geologically, there are two places on the planet where I'm feeling in my guts that are places of dramatic shift. One
Mhm.
is Indian Ocean, and the
Mm.
other is where I used to live in Southern California,
Yeah,
along the fault line there.
yeah.
Yeah,
And in looking at it recently, it's having a swarm of smaller level earthquakes
yeah,
in El Centro.
yeah,
So what do we do? Do we focus on all of the negative, all of the
No.
disaster, or I feel like we're suffering from a lack of imagination, from what if we really lived as though this were heaven in earth, rather than purgatory or hell,
yeah,
or the consequence of our bad decisions. What if we really did just revere earth as this amazing being that is just so abundant and generous
yeah,
and and
And I think
reciprocal?
yeah,
that's what we need to do. Some of that is relearning, because there was a time we did better at that. But some of it is all new ways too, Kat. We do not focus on the negative. There's no point in that any longer. We focus on what can we best do now. For me, one of the biggest questions is, um, we can talk. We do a great job talking. We have people trying to do things, but how do we bring everybody together who is aware, awake, who understand what's going on? And how do we start really affecting change? It's not going to come from our leaders, for damn sure. It's not going to come from our organizations. It's not going to come from any place outside of us. It's got to come from us. And so I want to put this to Kat because she's the woman here at the moment. And so give
Ooh.
birth to this idea, Kat.
Well, I feel like this Zoom is a piece of the puzzle because it is an incredible technological fascia. It connects communities that would not ever hear from each other. Um, but I also feel like sitting in circle and listening is a skill that Indigenous know inherently, and Western industrialized cultures, we need to slow down and really realign our inner peace.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. The interesting thing for me, like when the mother showed me recently, you know, I'd been for a walk, came back to the forest, and she was very clear. She asked me to open my heart, which I did, both front and back. And that's where the ancestors came in, was the ancestors of the trees, and I could feel the ancestors of everything coming in. I could feel the earth's presence. And she showed me how she, in the forest, and it was a particular tree there, came in and sort of showed me how all the plants in the forest work together in community. There was nothing left out anywhere at any stage. And it's in showing me this is how we need to work together. She showed me her community, and then she said to me, "Where is your community?" And I realized I had none, not like that. And that community worked together. Nobody was left out. Everybody was included. Everybody was equal. The size of the plant, because there was little plants in the forest to big trees, to them, the size made no difference. And this is the thing, we create differences from our head-based perception of separation. When you're in your feelings, you do not feel separation. And there's a difference between feelings generated by the head, which are usually emotions of separation, you know, such as anger, need for protection, you know, feeling less than. These are all ego, head-based, you know, experiences. The real emotions are empathy, sympathy, compassion, love. These are the ones that come from the connected in the moment mind. I find people in time can feel happiness, but if you follow happiness in, getting closer to the moment, as soon as you cross that line out of the world of time into the moment, happiness switches to joy. If you follow it into consciousness, there's a moment where it switches from joy to love.
Yes.
So we have these things that are what I call leaders. Happiness is the precursor to joy. Joy is the precursor to love. It's going deep within. We've sought happiness externally rather than following it internally to the source of it within ourselves. And there where we pop through and experience joy. You know, various things can come up from that, like ecstasy, bliss. All of these things become available through these doorways that open up when we learn to follow them inwards to their source rather than looking for external triggers. We, you know, buy something that has 10 flashing lights and 3 streamy ribbons because it stimulates our vision. You know, we're looking for stimulation. We're looking for excitement because we don't have it internally. We don't have it internally because of our lack of connection. Once you get connected, everything is available. All the emotions, all the experience, all the aspects of consciousness. And one of the things I do with exercise, I take people from thinking into awareness and then into consciousness, but we do it just through a breathing technique. And that gets people, you know, to experience these different states, you know, as I get them to change their breath. And then how do you see things from there? How do you experience things from there? And then we drop through to the next layer of breath. And how do we see things and how do we experience things and feel them from there? And the thinking brain has its set of emotions and senses. Awareness has its set of sensations and experiences. and consciousness has its range of sensations and experiences. Once we follow them through, we realize there's a heck of a lot more available than just what the brain contains. Brain is actually very, very limited, very inefficient, and I can go into great detail explanations.
No.
Jim will, yeah, see,
No.
terror arises.
There's so, and we're all talking the same way. They're also saying, no, we don't focus on the negatives. There are no negatives.
Yeah.
We keep talking, we share about how this could be done, how we used to do it, how we could do it again, and the new ways. But then they're starting to say, and I like this, we also have to start planting the seeds. And I've been saying a lot of us have. We have to start focusing on what after this turmoil and this chaos we're going through. Then what? We've got to be planting those seeds now. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of barren ground with nothing growing. So we have to, even as we're going through this, and whether we're dealing with personal issues and disappointments or pains or communal ones or things that affect our whole species, we've got to be looking ahead. We've got to start planning. So we're preparing the ground, I think. And just being Kat, you live down in Southern California, just being aware of those places and what's going on. Someone was arguing with me online yesterday because I put up the video of some of the mudslides and all now.
Uh-huh.
And they were trying to say, well, it's not that bad because they've got all this underpining underneath and all the whole. Well, I looked late last night and 4 of those homes had gone into the ocean. So, I mean, that's a ridiculous argument.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know it, right? You've seen it. That was in your area.
And to live in a desert with 135 golf courses that go through millions of gallons of water every single day, when everything in the desert is so, it's recognizing there's scarcity of water and that you have to revere what water when the rain comes. And it's almost like we're almost forgetting the power of the elementals. Like when the oceans rise, when the winds blow, when the sun bakes, Earth has a lot of very powerful tools to shake loose.
Yeah.
And so I mean, we can list a dozen social breakdowns that are happening among human beings. What comes next? If it's not capitalism, because it's based on extraction and colonialism and slavery, then what is it? How do we organize humans in a way that is decent and loving and inclusive?
I come back to one simple answer: listen to the earth. The example she showed me when she works in community, and I asked her about things that we perceive as out, and she said it's not a time for protest anymore. It's a time for living with her because she needs that community, which is that loving, caring space. It's like a mother looking after her children, and everything's her child. And that's I hope, is the loving space you're talking about. One of the things that's crucial is we've taken environments and, as you say, brought lots of water to them. We need to let the environments be themselves. So we learn the food and the sustenance of each environment. We're trying to create monocultures in places where monocultures don't belong. Monocultures don't belong anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, any land has been shown that if you let a natural range of plants, insects, birds, things like that come into an environment and have biodiversity, everything flourishes a lot more, and this land sustains its nourishment a lot longer.
Yeah.
Now,
I think
one of the things,
another piece of
the only other thing I was going to say is my father taught me years ago, if you want to know what to grow in an area, look at what grows there naturally. And he was a farmer. And that was his approach. Look at what grows naturally on the land, and that's what you learn to live with. We have forgotten this by trying to make what we want to be there, which is just ego, like golf courses. You don't need that, and that's not what belongs on that land because it's not maintained naturally.
And that'll be some of the teaching, because what's going to grow in areas now is going to be very different. Even in just the next couple of years, it looks like, because
Yeah.
the ecosystems are changing dramatically. I mean,
Yeah.
down where you are, as the oceans rise, Chris, you
Mm.
may in the next couple of years happen to be doing the doggy paddle, because you'll be up to your neck in water. You're an island.
Yeah.
So it's it's going to be. I think it's going to be interesting. I think part of it is too. People yell about the internet and social media and all these things. There's a lot of validity there, of course. It's used for a
Mm.
lot of dark things, but
Yeah.
it's also been a great tool, and it's continuing to be a great tool. Kat, you and I
Yeah.
have done a bunch of these things. Chris, less so far. We can be talking to people. Well, we are. Look, Chris is halfway around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can be in circle and realize that a lot of the things that we believe about other groups is nonsense that's been pushed on us by people trying to control.
Yeah.
So that it allows that common community, I think, to start growing. I mean, I spent 30 plus years going around because I had to physically go to be with people, and that limits what we can do. But
Yeah.
now, hell, we open up something like this. Today's not a good example. Well, maybe it is. Chris is down there. You and I are different states apart, and we've got our friends from Pine Ridge. So, in a small way, that's it. I mean, but we can have people from everywhere. As a
Yeah.
bug rolls across my screen, he wants to speak.
Well, it's part of nature, so we listen to the bug. Yeah. It is an interesting one. There's one of the things I like coming back to what I see happening. There's a group of people here, friends I have, who are getting interested in that connection with the environment. There's one in particular, she was having a total breakdown as she was having realizations. She had the vision of masses of people disappearing, and her and I had never really spoken about that. And she's
That
seen the
is
same
happen.
numbers that I saw. One of my original visions when I was getting on this journey in my early 30s, and for those at Pine Ridge, I'm 66 now. One of the three original visions I had was 2/3 of the world's population disappearing.
Yes.
And yeah, and my friends seeing the same thing, and seeing the Kogi recently announce the same figures. The same vision is coming to multiple people over time.
Mhm.
And this to me is a call to heed this knowledge as an accurate knowledge because it's been transmitted universally. The more connected we become, the same knowledge becomes available. If you want to know how to live with the land, the earth shows us, like she literally shows us, take this seed, plant it here in this spot on the ground. That's what she does with me. And I do those things. I learn it. But, I'm seeing quite a lot of young people now hearing a call to listen to the earth. They don't know why. They don't know what it's about. They just know it's there and know it's happening. So when we talk, we get a bit more organized about it. And I presume this is happening worldwide. We need enough people who are hearing these younger people and people that are being called to help them understand so we can start bringing it together and become a movement in itself, which is part of what we're looking at doing with SOTM. We're working with people that are hearing the call and helping them find ways of finding community, which once again is back to what the forest said, where is your community? So I'm establishing it where I can, both locally and internationally, because we need to work together, not for any external purpose, but for that connected relationship. The earth needs our energy in line with her being put into consciousness. I get the feeling once it's in the consciousness, it becomes available. She just needs that energy set in motion, is what she's saying to me right now.
Yeah.
So- Go ahead, Jim.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that, I don't know if you know that I've been doing this, Jim, but every year with White Eagle, I do the Blue Flame Grid ceremony.
Yes.
And in multiple points on the planet, I was returned continuously to the Indian Ocean. And so it seems like global security and trade are two aspects that are going to have to shift dramatically.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that means. I haven't really spent that much time in Southeast Asia, but it seems to me that those coastal areas are very densely populated.
Yeah.
So how is that dynamic, that power shift of having those heavy coastal concentrations? Excuse me.
Lightsaber. Oh. Yeah,
So
it's some of the islands and the coastal areas. A lot of, I forgot about this, but I've heard it before. A lot of indigenous people in coastal areas are already pulling back and moving up and out so that they can, what's that mean? Function more efficiently, I guess, or
mm,
survive as things start to hit. Yeah, because
mm,
those areas are densely populated because it drew people. You know, people were drawn to the water.
yeah. See, it's interesting when you look at it.
Jeez.
I sort of try not to focus on some of this, but if you
Mm.
go back to that big earthquake they had in the Indian Ocean area where they was near Christmas several years ago, they had a huge earthquake and there was over 200,000 people killed from the tsunamis from that one earthquake in the Indian Ocean area. And compared to what has the ability to come, that was small. So we can only imagine the sort of, effects that could happen. When you talk about trading has to shift and change, what comes to mind for me with that is we shift so many products around the world on ships. Raw materials might be gathered in America, shipped over to China because they can get cheap labor there to manufacture a product, and then use another ship to ship it all the way back. And these are ships that consume tons and tons of oil, which is greenhouse gases going into the environment, just to get some cheap labor. And it took away jobs from those people that were previously making it in America. The same has happened in New Zealand, the same has happened in just about every Western country. Local employment has gone down. And a lot of what I see is we're going to have to think locally or act locally and think globally. And, if you've got a product in there, employ the people, manufacture it in your area, that becomes your trade product that sustains that particular community. And we've stopped sustaining local communities and been sustaining communities in a completely different country just because they charge less per hour. And to me, that's not the way it should be.
Well, the other aspect of that, Christopher, is the whole idea about tourism.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
because that is a colonial idea as well,
Yep.
where the people who live in an area don't even live in that area anymore.
Mhm.
I'm thinking of the Germans in Spain. I'm thinking of Americans in Hawaii. I'm
Mhm.
thinking of any place in America where indigenous have been sequestered onto these little tiny postage stamps of reservations that are completely contrary to their moving ways of adjusting to the cycles of earth and food.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is, and
that's interesting, and that's played out a lot. Um, when I spent all that time in Central America, which is 25 years ago now, started, and we brought, we thought, a good idea because there was a lot of clear cutting going on and they were burning down the jungles. And so we brought the idea of ecotourism. And the first thing that had to be one of the first things was to eliminate the trash because they started using products that were not just, they used to eat a banana, throw the skin on the side, it'd be gone in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But now they were pulling things out of bags and throwing the bags on the, so that had to change. So for a period of time, uh, um, that was a good shift. People could make more money down there by running their villages so they could welcome in ecotourists, and they were not killing all the animals and cutting down all the trees. The problem is, once again, too many damn people. And
Hmm.
so people started flooding in, and the ecotourism thing became a tsunami. And now they're pushing back on that. So it's what's next. And I'm seeing that I'm getting the same response there, that they're being very careful on the reses because sometimes too many people want to come.
yeah, we're striking this in New Zealand already. How many?
Yep.
Like we're a country of 5 million people, and we're getting to a level tourism is unsustainable. And we've got world-class walking tracks which people love. You can only get on them by booking into them now, whereas you could usually turn up and just walk them. Not now. But also waste disposal, toilet facilities. Like I'm in Queenstown where our natural population is about 20,000, and we're expected to provide a whole lot of facilities for tourists that number almost double our population. And we haven't got the population to support those things locally.
Yeah.
And we're not the only area in New Zealand, but we are New Zealand's top tourist spot. And government has been reluctant to give us money to sort of help back it. They love raking the money in, but they're sort of a little bit reluctant on the dishing it out part.
So think about how crazy, how insane this is.
Mm.
I come from a little tiny town, Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, 4,000 people when I was growing up. It's almost double that now. Gosh, it's like almost approaching 8,000. The weekend that I was there, 100,000 people were visiting a town of 7,000 because the town spent money marketing to all of these communities that all showed up so that the businesses could flourish. But the whole quality of life for the people who live in the town is now, yeah. I mean, we're just not really thinking through this stuff. Nuclear weapons, it's the same way. We think that it's giving us security. We're spending $1 trillion to modernize it. And every single place that it gets extracted from all of the ore, those people are ending up with cancer. We just stop. Just stop.
It's a process of death, and this is where we've got to come back into line with that which flourishes, that which thrives, which is a part of the circle of life. And one of the key things you said, it basically is flawed thinking. Well, as Jim and I have been learning, we've got to stop thinking and start feeling. Our thinking brain, which is the brain that operates in time, has been working in a state of disconnection. We've got to let go of that and come back to our heart-based consciousness. As we've been learning to do that, we've had synchronicities that I've never seen before. They're happening constantly on a daily basis. That's what we've got to come back to. We know where to go. We know if we start to turn down a street like, something doesn't feel right. So we don't. We don't know why, but we learn to follow that. And this is what we've got to come back to. What feels right? If the people had listened, you know, how many people, you know, would we like to have here, and realize you don't have to realize there's a greater community or there's a limitation to the toilet facilities. You've just got to go, how many does it feel to bring in and sell tickets? You know, cut off at 10,000 people, you know, we're 4,000. We can only handle X amount.
But what is the logistics? Like, I feel like sometimes we're super good as a species of identifying problems. And then we're getting better about a little bit better about where we want to end up. But the gap is, how do you get from here to there? And I hear you saying we need to get out of our head and into our hearts.
Yeah.
My Anungan elder friend encourages me to go even deeper.
Yes.
For we women to go into our womb and operate from that level of wisdom, and for
Yep.
men to reacquaint themselves with their gut feelings
Yeah.
and be able to learn the language of expressing their emotions.
Yeah.
I
But
think,
it's not a gap. How do you get from here to there?
I think that's part of what, yes, we got to go into that inner being and use our other senses, and into the heart, as Chris says, or into the gut, whatever, wherever it feels appropriate. Because what happens, I think, we are good at identifying problems. We're very good. And then we take action. However, we take action out of here all too often, especially Western society. And what does that do? It makes the problem worse, not better. And there's examples all over the place of us doing that. And so then, how are you going to get there? You're further away rather than closer. And it happens at all levels. They go and kill the wolves. And
Not in
then,
Colorado. We
I know,
reintroduced the
I
wolves,
know, we're back.
and
My
I
people-
helped do that.
I know you did. My people were back. My clan.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's, and then they get reintroduced to areas, and you see how the areas start to flourish again. But even there, we don't learn because ego gets in the way, or it's not profitable, like you're saying. That's right. We got to get rid of the profit structure as the be all and end all of everything. It's got to stop being God.
I wonder what it's like to be in the class of uber wealthy. Like, how
I
do
don't
they
know.
go to sleep at night knowing that so many are homeless and just not well cared for?
Yeah.
How they live life with great abandon and freedom. I see it on the mountain.
Oh yeah, you're in a good place to see it. Cats
So
in Vale.
So how do we bring that mindset to a middle class that's not jealous of climate refugees receiving some resources to be able to resettle? I feel like even in the places where our policy and our institutions are showing some hints of compassion and caring on a broader scale, there are outside forces that are pressing against it, saying, we don't like that.
Yeah.
We have to answer some of this. We have to bring in the Kiwi shaman.
Oh, cool. Thank you. I'm going to be really blunt on this one. Your whole discussion, Kat, is about thinking there's somewhere other than now. And you've been using the keyword think, 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 think. The one thing we've been learning is not to think, to feel our way through things. And when you feel, you're working in the moment. What do we need to do now? What is this? You can ask what it's about, but we don't need to do it. We just need to know, what do I need to do now? If I feel to plant something, I plant it. I may not know what. I might go, oh, but this is a month early. But then later on, I find Suddenly there was a drought at the far end of the season, but the earth knew that already.
Wow.
When we listen to her, we hear the guidance she offers us in this moment. We don't always understand the outcome. And I always love this example. When I went over to visit you guys in America, and me and Jim were together, I think, was it day 3, we were out looking at grounds for where to have the event. Nothing was happening. Jim had been at it for weeks before I got there.
Mhm.
I got there and it was day 3. We're driving around and I forget who mentioned it. It's like, this isn't working, is it? And the other one of us says, no. Jim pulled over the side of the road and we were sitting there just, it's not working. And Jim, I believe it was you, brought us back to, we're coming from the head. We realized it, got to come from the heart. We sat with that. It was just one of those dawning moments. And take it that we've been trying literally for 6+ weeks to try and find a ground to hold our event. Within 20 minutes of sitting on the side of the road, just discussing how the head doesn't work, we've got to get out of our own way and come from the heart. Suddenly, with round about the 20-minute mark, we had 2 phone calls offering us grounds. As soon as we shifted that energy, flow came back in because we were listening. When you're not listening, things can't come in to a space that's not open.
Mm.
We've got to trust this. When we're trying to think, what are our goals up there? We're not being with where we are here. We think goals, this external stuff is all important. Nature guides you. Sometimes she'll go, you're in a drought at the beginning of the growing season. Well, I can't plant my seed now because it's just not going to flourish. So I hold the seed until it feels time to plant. I listen to her. I work with her. We thrive with her. We literally have to change the whole mentality we're operating with. We need to find out what we do now because this is our start point for everything that follows. If we don't get the start point right, nothing is going to follow from it. We need to learn how to use this in the moment consciousness that starts to understand the guidance we're being offered. While we're trying to go to the old mind, all we're doing is maintaining the system which is dysfunctional. Now, the earth was very clear to me. Don't protest the old. Don't protest what's happening. To her, that is just conflict. She needs us to live in the harmony and follow it every step. If we don't know, sit down with her until it becomes clear. The same as Jim and I did on the side of the road. As soon as we got clear about where we needed to come from, literally, we had to get clear. And in that clearness, it came on because we both got that point, well, don't know. And bang, there it was, a phone call came through, shortly followed by another one. And it's like, bloody hell, if you want good feedback, that's it. And that happened. Once we got in that, it then happened time after time after time. We got to the stage when we saw we were trying to make something happen, we just stopped. Because we knew that was old thinking.
Sweet. And
See,
so
Kat's got the great phone this time. I remembered to turn mine off.
we're
And
getting
this is the big.
we're getting
Go
the
for it.
yeah, let me feed in because otherwise we'll get too far. So they're saying they're totally agreeing. What does that word mean? Oh, so they're saying the dominant cultures have forgotten to let the spiritual be part of every day. I guess they mean everyday living.
Mm.
Even even when many speak it, they don't understand that it's part of being. So yeah, and I think that's what you're hitting, Chris. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. The big part with that is, in the Western cultures, like we go to our New Age hippie festivals, they have a
Don't
few
you pick
workshops.
on us hippies? Watch it.
Yeah. We do our yoga, we get our feet behind our head. We
Never been able to.
we eat some homegrown yogurt, we have a few bean sprouts, and we think we're doing wonderful. when secretly we're all waiting for the DJ to come on so we can dance and stimulate our senses.
Oh,
Money, 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 padme hum. Yeah, anyway. It's coming back to that. The gatherings we need to be gatherings of connection, and we need to have processes of connection, and that has not happened yet. That is not happening in the West yet.
What would
Yes,
they
we
look like, Christopher? Give me an example. Okay, so I'm thinking about assembling a climate coach, a senior executive, and a global youth change maker in a trio. What would a
Yep.
process of connection look like for
Okay.
that?
I'm going to do something different. Jim will love this because he's seen me do it heaps of time. Are you breathing?
Am I breathing not very well right now? I had a ski crash on Sunday.
Okay. Are you breathing?
I am breathing
How do you know you're breathing?
because I am still living and I need to be breathing in order to.
That is a lovely theory. Great head knowledge. How do you personally know? Take your time. Do not rush the answer.
I can feel the oxygen moving through my lungs.
How does that feel as you feel that? Drop yourself into that feeling, immerse yourself in that feeling. And just totally taking yourself into that feeling. Notice its changes. Do you feel the rhythm with it? Might even feel like a sense of cycle, but just that rhythm. How does it feel? Just breathing in time with that natural rhythm of the body, feeling that pulse, that rhythm. Now, what I want you to do is feel below that rhythm to feel if there is an even deeper rhythm your body feels drawn to breathe at. And as you find that, drop yourself into that deeper rhythm. Follow yourself inwards to that second rhythm of the breath, the second rhythm of the body. Just notice how it feels. Notice what senses you experience there, what sensations. Notice how you experience sensations there. Are they different from the first rhythm of the breath? Notice how you notice your noticings in the second rhythm of the breath. Notice how you experience your own body. And your experiences of the body, are they external or are they more internal? And now I'm going to ask you, is there an even deeper rhythm, a third rhythm of the breath that your body feels is available, that may be calling you at this time, that feels available? And dropping into that third rhythm of the breath, the depth of it, the vastness of it, the expanse of it. And just notice being in this place with the third rhythm of the breath. Notice how it feels there. And just explore the space of this third rhythm of the breath. Now, for the expediency of shortening time, I'm just going to invite you to come back to the second rhythm, get in time with that. Yeah, back to the first rhythm. And just when you feel ready, coming back to the here and now, where you are, back to that first rhythm of breath, being aware of the here and now. Shortened version of it. How did you find that? Did you find there was a change in sensations and experience? And were you able to find both a deeper rhythm, the second rhythm, and then a third rhythm of the breath?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These are the parts of ourselves. Each rhythm has its own aspect of consciousness that governs that rhythm. This is just a very short part of a bigger exercise I do. It's listening to the natural cycles of the body that most of us forgot are there all the time. We just haven't been listening to them. So what do? I get people into the place of that inner experience of that connected flow we all have and the consciousness that goes with it. So we can start talking from that place. We can start moving from that place. We can start sharing from that place. If you want people to work in connection, the first thing has to be that connection. So all words, actions, movements, and motivations, if there is motivation, because most of it's just in the moment experience, come from that place. But in the moment, consciousness has an understanding of vastness and the expanse of things and the movement of energy. So it knows what's going on, where it's going on, and how it's going on in all space-time. There is that aspect in the third rhythm of breath if you know how to tap into it.
Cool. So let's shift again. Here's my thought. We've got about 10 minutes left.
Yep.
Why don't we, how do I put this? I don't know. What kinds of things, and not your normal things, please, no, let's recycle our plastics type stuff. But what really deep things, if any, came to us today that we could start to do?
The first thing that came up for me is learning to plant veggies and plants again. In New Zealand, when I grew up, everybody had their own garden. Most families lived off their gardens, not the supermarket. So we didn't have to travel to get our food. Most of our food, not all of it, but most of it grew in our own backyard, walking distance.
So reestablish some things that were effective before. Okay.
Yes.
Kat, your turn. Or not.
Yeah. I feel like just letting the cleansing tears flow, letting the waters run as they need to.
Okay.
I hear you.
So yeah,
Thank you.
bringing in more of the emotional and spiritual elements. Okay. I like that.
Well, but specifically
Mm-hmm.
grief and sorrow.
Yeah. And any process of change usually requires that.
So for me, it's coming up again today. And the phone's lighting up, so we may get something from that too.
Yeah.
The grief and the sorrow, you're right. And I've been going through that too. And that's actually caused depression. Some days were so deep that I just kind of said, the hell with it, and didn't do anything. It's flipping that and looking at all we have left and all the amazing things we have left and all we can still do, rather than constantly grieving what we've lost. It's easy to get submerged. It's easy to sink in the grief of what we've lost. I'm now trying to practice actively embracing what's still there.
And it's interesting as you say that, Jim, like I remember, like there was days you and I were both going through stuff. And every time we went out the back of the house and sat with the trees together, we always improved. If that's coming back to land, it was as simple as stepping out the back door. And it always lifted us again. It gave us this extra zest of energy that we could, oh yeah, I see again. If we don't see far, we could at least see closely. And that made a huge difference, which brings me back to when did we forget to dance? When did we forget to sing? Those things that acknowledge the connection with the mother, the rituals that are there, yeah.
And so here's from up. They're still writing, but I'll bring some of this in. I think I get what they're saying. Yeah. a lot of indigenous people are stepping up. So I'm going to go off what they're saying, because I do see what they're saying. I'll come back to it. A lot of
Yeah.
indigenous people are stepping up and deciding to share, even though it's kind of ironic that we're asking the ones that we've put down for so long to now help lead. But what they're saying is, and they're pointing the finger at us a bit too, because I've spoken about this, and I know Chris and I have as we've done things too. Here comes
Yeah.
another. I got several messages coming from them now. But listening to the indigenous is a good thing. We are closer to the earth. It will help where we can. But we are listening to the First Nations too. The bear, the wolf.
Oh, yep.
She mentioned the wolf in Colorado,
Hey,
eagle, the ant. Listen to the First Nations. Okay. Because
I hear.
the true First Nations are before there were any of us two-legged
Yeah.
to get in the way.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's interesting because it brings me back to, when I started seeing the animal spirits your way, Jim.
Yeah.
Like I'd never seen that before. And it has come through a bit since I've been here as well.
That was pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah. God, talk about blow me away. But I hear it, I fit it. And I still find I have a hunger from learning from all of those things, from nature, from the animal kingdom, from the earth, and also from the indigenous culture, because I can see so much knowledge that's available that I'd like to sit with to learn. And I don't see it as a big process, but I see it as kickstarting stuff that we have to do together. I don't understand it, but I just feel it. Talking stick in the middle. Yeah. So yeah, where from here? Well, for me, it's just breathe.
Oops, what happened? You there?
Yep.
Oh, the screen went blank. Okay, got
No,
it.
still here. Yeah, it's
So
sometimes I feel
final thoughts.
Mm.
Chris doesn't get the talking stick yet, Cap, but he'll learn. This was good.
It is.
I
I've
hope,
actually got a lot from this one.
yeah, and I hope the people who were not here tonight were out enjoying life, singing, dancing, dreaming. And I think we're on again next week. I thought it was Robert. I can't remember. Somebody else was. Oh, it wasn't. I think he's going to broadcast from Costa Rica.
Oh,
That'll be fun.
yeah,
I'd,
that'll be worthwhile.
I'd also like to thank your friends from Pine Ridge
Hmm.
for their listening and their wisdom sharing. And Christopher, thank you. You always send me to a deeper alignment. Grateful. And Jim,
Thank
I'm
you.
that you can translate and bring in so many of our wiser humans. Thank you.
That's because my brain's convoluted, I think.
Oh, I'm sure.
This was good. Glad you were here, Kat. It's good.
Yeah,
It helped balance
much,
things off as well.
Mhm.
yeah, much appreciated, Kat. I've really enjoyed this.
Or as they say down under, it was lovely to see you.
Oh, yes.
And as they say,
G'day, mate.
Africa, jumbo, jumbo.
God, yeah. Gotta
So
love it.
Oh, I guess we needed to. Well, it's near the end. Thanks
Yep.
to everybody who hears this later too. If you get any value out of it, put it up, let others hear it. This is Sanctuaries of the Earth Mother, sodom.org. You can find us, is our organization. But we welcome all organizations, of course. And we will be doing this, I believe, on a weekly basis on Wednesdays. So I truly don't know what next week is, but I know something is scheduled. So just come and join us. Drop in. If you can't stay the whole time, it's perfectly fine. Drop in, share a bit. When you feel full, head on out. And Tom, thank the circle up there, as Kat just did, for all three of us, for being here. You all have been following for a long, long time, and it is much appreciated, and it brings a aspect in, even folks like me who have kicked around with a lot of different people. You always bring in things that are totally new, and that's great. And I hope you get something new from us. That's how this works. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And much appreciated.
I'm just gonna turn off the recording, I think, I hope.